Hey guys, we are Sean and Kristy. This is Long Long Honeymoon, and we have an exciting show for you this week. We are being joined in a live Q&A session by VINNIE LAMICA, our favorite Airstream expert, whom we have worked with for many years. And there he is, live
Hi guys.
in Wilton, California, standing by to answer your questions. Carl Aaron says, outstanding.
Great.
And Sherry says, hey, ya. She says she just got her mom to invest in a camper. So this is going to be a live conversation. It's the first time we have ever really done a live Q&A with an expert like Vinny in this format where we can field questions from you, and where he's in California and we're in the deep South in Loloho National Forest. So hopefully this will work and the technology will cooperate. Joe says Loloho from Michigan.
We got a lot of people tuning in.
There's Todd
we
in
got
Utah.
some people in Key Largo.
Todd was on my drone broadcast the other day. Going places in Key Largo. You know, we just did a video about the Florida Keys. So if you haven't seen that, we posted it about a week ago.
Yeah, that was last Sunday's video.
And I know this week's video is a little bit different, but these times we're in are a little bit unprecedented. So it's a good time to experiment with some new formats. And
there's a good question that you could ask Vinny right there.
All right.
So
Little Kid at Heart says, Vinny, I've looked at a few Airstreams and found that two seemed like a clear coat was peeling off the outside. The dealer said it was normal and non-fixable.
What?
Peeling clear coat.
So
Normal?
I would guess he's looking at an early model Airstream, maybe like a 1999, 2000, maybe a 2001. And in the early days, there were some issues with the clear coat. Extreme, sun beating down on the side of the skin can cause some separation. But around 2002, 2003 and beyond, we were that problem wasn't as prevalent. And now with the new skins, we really just don't see that.
Well, that's good.
The issue we had with ours and have had has been that filiform corrosion. And that's something that's unique to Airstreams too, right? Unique to the aluminum.
Yeah, dissimilar metals will cause that, and start that corrosion, especially on the edges where the aluminum has been cut or penetrated, and by a screw or a flange or something, you can get maybe it's salt air gets in there and starts to work its way underneath the clear coat, and that problem starts. But you can get after it and at least arrest it and stop it, but you can't make it look much better.
Right.
Isn't that something you can use the bone tool for?
Exactly. You want to use the bone tool, right? That way you don't accidentally scratch up the rest of the trailer while you're trying to remove the corrosion.
Look at that. Me with some technical advice.
Kristy,
who would have thought?
With the bone tool.
You're on it, Kristy.
Speaking of bone tools, Jeremy asked, does an inch really matter? Is it better for the hitch on your camper to be a ½ inch higher than the back, or a ½ inch lower, or does it matter? So we're talking about hitch height, towing a camper.
Right. So all that depends on what the tow vehicle is, how you use it. When I set up a hitch, if it's, for example, say an F-150 that's four-wheel drive, it has kind of a lighter suspension so that the four-wheel drive can articulate while going off-road. Well, if we try to level that truck out by using the weight distribution with the trailer, we're asking the trailer to do an awful lot. So maybe in that situation, you might, add airbags or, lighten the load a little bit in the bed. But when I set it up, I like it to be even, so that when you're looking at it, the trailer's level and the truck is, it's sprung, it's in a working mode, but the truck is level and working. Yeah.
Yeah, and you actually did adjust our hitch a few years ago and got it dead set even, which is nice. But our hitch gear is getting a little bit worn. We may be switching that out pretty soon. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
We haven't really decided which direction we're going to go. Here's a good question from the vet. It says, Vinny, what is your #1 recommended upgrade to a stock new Airstream. So you get a brand new Airstream from the factory. What's the best upgrade you can make day one?
Wow, there's an awful lot of them, but I think I would lean towards. I think I'd lean towards the 16-inch wheels and tires.
Yeah,
if it doesn't already have that, because it really takes the that whole worry, that whole fear out of getting the flat tire. It never happens at a great time. If you're in the center lane on the freeway, it's high temperatures, it blows out. By the time you pull over and you get to a stop and you look back there, you just see so much damage that it caused. You know, it never just goes flat. It always slaps around a piece of rubber that's a foot long and tears everything up in its path. So the speed limitation isn't necessarily as strict with the 16-inch. I like Michelin's, and it certainly has the payload and just the durability of that tire. It's, you know, if it's good enough to go on a school bus, I think it's a good fit for an Airstream.
Yeah, that's certainly been one of the best upgrades we've made, period, to our Airstream, and it gave us such peace of mind.
Absolutely.
Because we did suffer more than one blowout that did some damage to our trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been just a wonderful experience towing on those Michelins. Here's a great question. Yeah.
If I could just add that not everybody needs to do that. You know, Goodyear came out with the Endurance. It's a US made tire. It's a, you know, when we last talked about this, just come out. So we didn't have any background on it. We didn't know. Now I'll stand behind that tire. I still want to switch them out around 4 years. But whereas the Michelin can go longer, but it seems like it's doing well. So you don't have to do that. But the standard ST tire, the Chinese-made tire, oh, you know, it's a little bit of a roll of the dice.
Yeah. Agreed.
Here's a question from Radar, New Jersey, and we want to say thank you for the tip. Radar.
Yeah, thanks for the tip.
Says, hello, Sean, Kristy, and Vinnie. I need to upgrade the axles on my 77 30-foot Sovereign. Will the modern Airstream axles work with a vintage trailer?
They will. Now, back in the day, Henshin made those axles, and we don't have all that data any longer. So he's going to have to measure to find out the width, where those axles fit in between the frame, the height, the pitch of the arms that come down for the axles themselves, and so. And you need to spec it. Maybe you don't need such a heavy duty, you know, it's a fairly light trailer compared to a new 30-foot classic. So you'd want to get it spec'd out correctly so it doesn't ride really rough, but yet is enough to do the job and comfortable for the trailer.
All right. Now here's a pertinent question we probably should have answered from the outset from Catherine. Says, who is this Vinnie guy?
She said she's new to the channel.
Vinnie, at this point, is an old and dear friend of ours.
Yes.
We've known Vinnie for basically a decade, but we met him through our Airstream ownership. He owns Vinnie's North Bay Airstream Repair in Wilton, California, sort of Northern California in the Sacramento area.
We like to refer to him as the Airstream Whisperer.
Yeah, I mean, and Vinnie, how many Airstreams do you typically have at your shop at any one time?
Well, if I was zoned to do this,
okay, wow.
Okay, you know, Airstreams do you think
it's possible I could have 20.
Yeah, well, put it this way: Vinnie has seen and done just about everything with regard to Airstreams. Yeah. And for those of you who don't have Airstreams, Airstreams are a travel trailer. I mean, there are unique issues related to Airstream, but Vinnie, you know, you can see behind him in his shop, he's got something called a Brooder, which is a different type of travel trailer. Which is like, looks like a pretty wild off-roading type of trailer. So a lot of the same issues that you'll find with Airstreams, you're going to encounter with any RV. So, and Vinnie is just an encyclopedia of knowledge, and he's very generous with sharing it with all of us. So that we love our chats with Vinnie. And here's a question that I think relates to that all Airstreamers can relate to, and it relates to something that we did when we were there at your shop last. Carol asked, have you heard of any of the Airstream base camps leaking down through the back of the refrigerator and out on the floor? We have a 2017 base camp that's had this problem. If we're out during a bad rainstorm, is this a design problem or is there an issue with their trailer? Leaking.
Yes. Yes, I've heard of it. The dealers work hard to fix that problem. It's just a tough spot because as the wind and rain come over the tow vehicle, it's forcing it into an area that is subject to leak. So stick with it. You can make a difference by making adjustments, and there are some fixes and solutions to it with Airstream. I personally haven't had that issue myself, but I've seen it.
And this sort of raises a point of like something that you do at your shop that you did with our trailer the last time we were there, and that is to test these trailers for leaks. Like you seal everything up on the trailer, right? And then you push pressurized air into the trailer. Am I getting that sort of correct?
Basically, it's your leak
are.
test,
Yeah.
right?
So like we're
You're
seeing
pulling
footage here of the leak test that we did on our Airstream. So we had to like sort of seal up all the vents, close all the windows, shut everything down, and then you pump air down through the roof through that fantastic fan opening, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I'm actually pressurizing the cabin of the trailer, and the machine is capable of considerable pressure to where it may even be in your videos somewhere that show the entry door. As we try to close it, it wants to push back open. So it gives you an idea of how much volume of air you can safely put in the trailer to not make leaks, but to identify where they're coming from. And it really is the only way to be sure that you found all those little leaks. It could be that when the awning was installed originally, there was an extra hole drilled, right? And that awning rail, it transfers a lot of water off the roof when it's raining. And what if it was to come down behind the rail, find that one little extra hole that was drilled? And, you know, how's the guy going to find that when he's sealing the roof? So this kind of gives you a little clue as to where those leaks are coming from.
So once you pressurize the inside, how can you tell where the leaks are? Like for people that have never seen you do this.
Right. Well, we use a soapy solution, right? So I spray the entire trailer with just a sudsy, soapy solution, and when air's coming out of somewhere, you'll see a big bubble formed. There it is, right there. And I hit all the common spots, and it really, I mean, it's a very thorough test.
So basically, pressurized air is pushing out through all of those tiny little holes that may potentially exist in the RV and those spaces where water could intrude. You've said before, water is the real enemy that we all face as RV owners. Water is the destructive force that can really tear up RVs over time.
It is. It is. Sadly, I mean, if you could keep in an ideal situation, if you could keep your trailer under cover out of the sun and the rain, oh, it would last for years and years. But if you can't and it's out in the elements, then you've got to do something like this, or at least have somebody qualified that knows what to look for when they're resealing the roof. If you don't have access to this tool, well, this is an additional, an additional layer to diagnostics. But you know, if you're familiar with the product that you're working on, you'll kind of know where they leak, and check all those seams and seals.
Well, along these lines, Rodney asked, what's the best way to seal Airstream seams on the roof and outer walls?
Like what products do you recommend? What method?
Yeah, it all depends. I use several. Not only do I want to seal it, but I want it to look good. So, on the roof, because it is a white roof, I like to use Dicor. It's a self-leveling lap sealant, and you make a few beads next to each other, and it kind of creates this. It forms this nice little bead that looks continuous, and it seals around the flange and where it makes contact with the roof and the screws and everything. So it's a handy little product, and you'll probably get 5 years out of it. I like to check the Airstreams every time it's in for service, but for sure, 5 years is kind of the number that if you haven't had your roof sealed, you really need to get up there and do it.
Now, Lawrence asked, what about using 3M extreme sealing tape instead of like caulking with Dicor?
Oh boy,
that sounds like something I would do.
It works, but it's very difficult to remove. And at some point it will separate, and water can get underneath it. And oh boy, that really changes a roof reseal when I see one of those roll in, because you want to get all that stuff out, and the material that they use to stick is really, really good. but it's very hard to come off. And it's not 100% proof that you've got the leak stopped, because you really can't see in all the noise.
So I guess duct tape is out.
Duct tape has been used in a pinch. You know, if it's raining on your head, you're going to use whatever you need to use to complete your trip, right?
Yeah, we do have footage of us duct taping a plastic bowl to our ceiling to stop a leak.
I mean, you know, you use what you got.
Randy asks, is Airstream the best travel trailer on the market? Now, that's a loaded question. I don't know if you can really say best.
Yeah,
I would guess the guy that owns this brooder would say no.
This is the best.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's a symbol of Americana. Isn't it amazing? You see an Airstream going down the road. It's just so beautiful. And I mean, who doesn't love it? But is it for everybody? You know, maybe not. They tow well. They're constructed well. Do they have problems? Sure. We have to iron a few bugs out of them in the beginning. But yeah, it's a nice trailer. But there's a lot of nice product out there.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, Mike asked, how much does one of those tests cost? Can you ballpark what a leak test might cost if somebody was?
Is it about a foot or?
Well, there's a lot of setup. So, I mean, I charge $225 for it. And what that does is I bring the trailer in, I set everything up, I do the pressure test, I identify everything. Then I have to kind of wash the trailer because I've made a mess out of it, and then dry it so it doesn't spot. And then you kind of know what you have. And then you go back and you can take a look. Are there any leaks? You know, is it time to do a roof reseal? Would I do the roof reseal first? You know, the sealant has to dry. So there's ways that you can do the roof reseal and then check it later if it's going to be here a week, and just verify that you've done everything and maybe keep the cost down a little bit. But it's a pretty extensive setup and it's a very expensive tool.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. We have a very timely question from the legendary Jim Pratt.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, Jim. Good to see you as always. He says, if we can't camp this year due to the COVID lockdown, is there anything special we need to do in addition to winter preparation and the storage we did in the fall? And this goes to, I'm sure, the situation that we're all dealing with. There are many of our viewers that already own RVs. They've got those RVs in storage. Maybe they winterized them and they're just on hold. They normally would have gotten them out. They would have already done some camping this spring. So what do they need to do, if anything, different?
Right. Well, I would check on the trailer if at all possible. I mean, you could leave it winterized. You'll just have to do a complete flush, a very thorough flush when it's time to bring the trailer back into service. But I would be making sure that one of the tires didn't go flat. So it's not just sitting there and it's going to damage the tire because it's actually flat.
Right.
I think if I was going to leave the trailer there, unless it has solar, I'd pull my batteries out and bring them home and put them on a trickle charger. I mean, batteries are expensive, and that's certainly going to shorten the life of them if they're going to go dead for any length of time. And just kind of do a general checkup, you know. And if you intended to winterize the trailer for 5 months and now it's there, you know, a full year plus, just check on it. Make sure it didn't get filled with ants, and you know, make sure the food items that were in there now that are going to be in there over the summer might be a good idea to empty the trailer, right?
Yeah.
We've gotten some messages from some people who are driveway camping, so to speak, you know, and I think that's really a good idea, because with any vehicle, the longer it sits going unused, you know, that can be hard on a vehicle. You know, like, for example, we had issues with our awning on our Airstream because it went unused for years. Like when we bought our awning,
the previous owner had never used it.
And so the awning arms were literally stuck.
They were just like frozen.
And we had to pay a lot of money just to replace those arms, because we even went by the Zip D factory in Chicago.
They couldn't get them.
They couldn't get them unstuck. They couldn't fix it. They said, we're just going to have to replace this. But the root of the problem was they were never used. So like, you know, sometimes just using them and putting a little lubrication on them or what have you will avoid a lot of problems. So even doing a little driveway camping is not a bad thing.
That's a good idea. Open them up, maybe clean them with a Scotch-Brite pad, spray some silicone on them, and close the awning back up. It's a great idea.
All right, here's a question from James Stein. He says, on your website, you talk about a ceramic coating. Now, this is a hot new technique that we've heard you discuss that we're very interested in ourselves. And it's as I understand it, a ceramic coating that goes all around the trailer to protect the trailer, right?
It does. We're very excited about this. I'm partnering with Master Paint Guard to offer this, and we do it right here at the shop, or we do it in their shop in Benicia. And really what it does is, I mean, there's a lot of, when you talk ceramics, you know, there's a lot of different product available. This is an industrial product. This is 3 layers hand applied. These guys went to school to learn this and have practiced many times, because you can imagine applying a liquid ceramic that you only have seconds to apply. And if you don't catch the next edge just right, now you've got some kind of waviness in the look of the trailer where the 2 ceramic coatings met and continued. So these guys, when they're in here, 2 guys do it. It takes them a full day nearly to ceramic the trailer. And it's glass, it's plastic, it's the solar guards, of course it's the skin, it's the seams. And the reason that I was so interested in this product is to address filiform corrosion. You know, when you cut, you know, the skin, say the skin on the trailer up here where this panel was actually developed, they cut it. Now you've got the bare aluminum. There's no clear coat that's over that edge, so it's somewhat exposed. When you drill a hole for a rivet, now you've got a cut area that the clear coat's no longer protecting the skin. So what this does is it flows over the seams, and it just gives that you know, like a glass coating. So what it does is it looks like it's waxed. It's always waxed. It has incredible hydrophobic properties that allow the water just to bead right off. So that being said, it's very easy to clean. Just pressure wash it. It comes right off. Bugs, I mean, everything come right off. Tar, nothing really wants to stick to it. So it is a permanent coating. It has to be sanded to take off. They do it on cars as well. I mean, we all know about ceramic coatings on cars. That's typically 1 layer, but on the Airstream, it's 3 layers. And the one that we use is designed for aircraft and marine. And it's an incredible product. It takes about 5 days, 2 days of prep, because once you seal it, that's it. You want to make sure if you can get the scratch out or something in the skin, you want to do that then before you put the coating over it. If you can't, you're going to coat over it. It is what it is. But so a new trailer is the time to do it. But an older trailer, you know, if it's in great shape and you're a little nervous about filiform corrosion, it's a really exciting product.
So is the ceramic coating just for metal vehicles, or like people with fiberglass trailers? Would there be any benefit for them of doing this, or is it just purely for metal and clear coat?
Yeah, like I said, they're using it on in marine applications. So that's a fiberglass gel coat. You can put it on anything. My coating guy put it on his hat. And he sprayed his hat with water, and you know, it moves with. It's not like it won't necessarily break. It's somewhat flexible, and water just beads off his hat. So it's kind of a fun product. And again, it's permanent. You have to sand it to get it off. You have to be careful with the lifetime word, because you know, folks take care of their Airstreams. They just do. But maybe it's on a pickup truck and the guy likes to go, you know, he's in the beltway somewhere and he goes through the car wash and there's grit all over the truck, and he goes through those car wash brushes and it will wear the finish. So they like to see those cars, you know, every year or 6 months to make sure the luster is still there. But that's going to be abrasive to it. But on the Airstream, you know, we wash it with our favorite mitt, lots of water, lots of soap, and we microfiber towel it down. That it'll last a long time.
All right. Well, here's a question from Reagan Cott. Thank you for the tip, Reagan, who says, what do you think of the Aldi air and water heating system? How to adjust to maximize heated water for the shower? I'm not familiar with the system. Are you?
Yeah, I haven't dealt with it too much, in that there's been issues with it. I mean, the leaking valve, a few things, bleeding them. The system's pretty amazing. There is another second generation. So folks that got the first generation and the classics, the early trailers, may have had a few struggles with them. But that system's been around an awful long time in Europe. So I would say, you know, it's an amazing system. I really like it, and I think you know, having that quiet heat is really kind of nice, and that instant hot water. So yeah, if he's having trouble with them, the dealers can fix those now, whereas early models had some struggles and there was some frustration.
Hey, there's Dawn Polk. If you're familiar with RV Education 101.
Yeah, Dawn and Mark
Always good to see Dawn and Mark out there.
Run that website and do an awesome job. He's kind of the master of Class A.
Yeah.
Everything you want to know about a
knows
Class
his
A.
stuff.
Yeah. Hey, guys.
Let's see. We're getting a lot of good questions. So I wanted to, here's a quick question from Darby Jones about washing Airstreams. I don't think walking Airstreams is what Darby meant to right there. What soap do you use? If you're going to wash Airstreams, and would you use the same soap for any kind of RV?
So if I was going to wash it, to wax it, I would use Dawn detergent, because it cuts all the grease and the oils. It really pulls off whatever's stuck to it, so you have a nice clean surface. But I would only do that if I'm going to wax it afterwards. If the trailer's already nice and waxed, I would use your favorite car wash soap. Whatever you're going to use on your new pickup, I would use on the Airstream. I just wouldn't do it in the direct sun, and I would towel it down with microfibers when you're finished.
Right. I know you're a big fan of Dawn detergent.
If you're going to wax it. Now, interesting, if you're going to have your trailer ceramic, that's all they recommend. Just clean it. If you apply some kind of wax or some kind of soap with wax in it, it actually resists it, and it makes it look like there's stuff on it. So then you would use Dawn. But yeah, I am. It's a grease cutting material.
Looks like we've been joined by someone named Cindy
Lamica.
in Wilton, California.
I'll be up for dinner.
Hey, Cindy.
Dan says he's busy in Florida polishing our rig and replacing the sewer valve.
Oh, no.
Sometimes it's got to be done. Little Kid at Heart is a new member.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you for joining and becoming a YouTube member. And on that note, we are working with some new technology where we're going to be able to do this kind of live meet and greet with our YouTube members. And we're still learning the technology, but in the next week or two, we plan to roll that out. So we'll be able to do live one-on-one meet and greets. So we're excited about that. See, Jefferson asked, what's the best pop-up trailer in the market?
Oh,
that's kind of a tough one.
Yeah, that's a tough one for me too.
About pop-ups.
Me neither.
Sorry, Jefferson.
See, Nancy asked, what's the name of the ceramic coating?
So on an automobile, it would be like a Ceramic Pro. That's a very common company name. But the solution that we use it's proprietary. So it was actually developed in conjunction with the supplier and Master Paint Guard to actually create this 3-layered ceramic. So I'm not sure the name of the company. There is a bottle around here on the shelf. It's these little brown bottles, but so I'm not exactly sure what the company name is that produces the product, but we market it through Master Paint Guard.
We've gotten a couple of questions about tankless water heaters. Are there any great tankless water heaters for RVs, like in the aftermarket? LMZ asked that, and so did Randy Wright. And, you know, last time we were at the RVIA show, we looked at some tankless water heaters, and the technology seems pretty impressive. I mean, but we still have the old school. It's just,
I think, a matter of, okay, you've got all this hot water. It's got to go somewhere. So our gray tank isn't any bigger. We're dry camping a lot. So
yeah, having unlimited hot water doesn't make much difference because you still can't use that much water anyway for us. But if you were full hookup,
if you were at full hookup, it'd be a different story. Yeah. But what do you think?
Well, here's what I would add on tankless water heaters. You know, when they first came out, the problem was they were trying to adapt this technology to RVs, and the size of the water lines, the PEX, didn't allow enough volume to transfer through the water heater. So it would cycle, it would go off and on, and that's pretty alarming in the shower, right? So what the solution was early on was to run a little more hot water, maybe at the sink in the bathroom. So now you have more volume of water being able to run through that system to keep it on. And then you won't get the cycling, because the shower head's going to reduce it with low flow, everything, you know, it just couldn't get enough volume. But there are a few companies that have overcome that to where they're going to ask the heater to stay on during that process. But you don't want to overheat it, you know, I mean, it's tricky. But I won't necessarily recommend one company, but if you go on and you look at some of the reviews, I think you'll find the results in those reviews. There's a few to stay away from, and there's a couple to lean towards.
We're going to say hi to James Turner and hi to Dan in Lewis Center, Ohio. And James asked, what about using car cleaner? I think you've probably answered that in terms of, Dawn, if you're going to wax the RV.
And if you're just watching to wash it, use whatever you would use to wash a car.
Right. Use your favorite car wash soap. I mean, something that's liquid that you're going to spray on. The key to it is a nice soft brush or a soft pad. Lots of water, not in the sun. Don't concentrate on that one little sticky spot. If it's sap or something like that, deal with that first with something that's going to dissolve the sap. Because what can happen is you're rubbing your thumb or rubbing something other than the bone tool. You're really working it with some alcohol or something like that. And now you've actually rubbed a mark around whatever's there as you're trying to wear it down. Once you get that thing off, it's going to show on the skin. So I like the Dawn because I know what I can get off with that. And if there's something else, be very careful that, you know, you take another product and work to get that loose rather than, you know, rubbing it to where it's going to scratch the skin.
Is there a particular product you recommend for people to get sap off?
Tree sap?
Like tree sap. Besides just using the bone tool, is there something else that people can use in conjunction with that? Or
yeah, P&S products, P&S detail supplies. You can look them up. I don't work with them, but I've used their product. They have a tree sap remover.
Oh, okay.
And I've got 2 bottles of it, and it's amazing. It doesn't hurt the skin. It comes right off. Again, don't do it in the sun. Loosen it, let it really work, and then wipe it with microfiber. If it doesn't all come up, loosen it again, wipe it with microfiber, and you will get it all off. It's amazing.
Okay.
I'm going to give a shout out to Bruce Wayne, who's watching in Manila, Philippines.
Batman is watching from the Philippines. That's awesome.
Fighting crime in Southeast Asia as we speak. Let's see. Here's a question about air conditioning. What are your thoughts on a residential mini split air conditioner? I'm renovating a 76 Sovereign and researching. Residential air conditioner?
Yeah. Is he going to use it as a livable? I mean, is he going to be towing it? I guess I'd want to know what kind of amperage it pulls. Is it overkill? Is it, you know, big 1-ton unit on a small trailer? It doesn't, you know, 15,000 BTUs or something is probably going to be enough depending on what he has. But some of them come with it, you know, the park models, certainly.
Hey, we got a question from Rick Kessler. Says, hello, Loloho and Vinny.
Hey, Rick.
What's the RV behind Vinny? So he kind of would like to know the story on this very unusual RV you've got back there.
So don't do it now and take away from us, but later go on to Brooder, BRUDER.com, and they've got some really fun YouTube videos. This is an Australian-made trailer. There's a few of them here in the U.S. I happen to have one. This customer also owns a few Airstreams, so this is another toy. And I'm converting this one to U.S. spec plugs and on all of that. So
wow.
Pretty neat. The suspension can raise and lower, and it's made for extreme outback camping. You can ford water, and it's pretty neat.
Yeah, it looks like it's really a good for off-roading. And to that point, like Richard asked, what's your opinion on converting from 15 to 16-inch tires and doing a 3-inch lift? And I'm sure he's talking about on an Airstream. What's your opinion of lift kits? Because you can see like on this Rooter trailer, you could take that off road.
Oh yes, that's got some big airbags in it, heavy duty suspension, big tires. It's pretty neat.
So, what do you think about lift kits on travel trailers?
Yeah, that topic has been brought up many times. The lift kit in itself, the axles are made by Dexter. Dexter actually makes a lift kit for their axles, and you're basically putting these steel blocks in between the mount, the top mount of the axle, and it's pressing up against the frame like it did originally. So that being said, it's safe. They get bolted in place. Customers tell me, I don't tow one myself, but customers tell me it doesn't adversely affect the handling of the trailer. I'd rather not drag the back of the trailer on a steep driveway and cause that kind of damage versus raise it. I mean, you can get 2 3/4 inch raising, lifting from that, plus maybe an inch with the 16-inch wheels and tires. That gets the trailer way up there. Airstreams tow really nice, and a lot of their weight is down low. So I think if you need it, it's a good solution.
Todd just commented and said that's a nice view in that campground. I want to point out this view that you're seeing, this footage is really of Vinnie's land in California. And this footage was taken a couple years ago. He's really developed it quite a lot since then. It's really a beautiful space. So you go out there, you really feel you're with nature in the countryside when you go to Vinnie's. Let's see. Somebody, to answer that earlier question, BC chimed in and said StarCraft makes a good pop-up travel trailer. Thanks for answering that. Vanetta says hello from Ohio. Jefferson gives us all a virtual hug, which we appreciate. Jefferson. USA Road Trip says nice live stream. Thank you very much. Let's see. Tim asked, what generator or inverter do you use? Is there any particular brand of generator that you would recommend?
Or inverter?
I know you do solar installations from time to time.
Yeah. I mean, I install what Ronnie installed on yours. I like to use Victor Quick equipment, so that 3000 Multiplus is a fantastic unit. It'll be trouble-free for you. Those battle borns and all of that. I mean, you guys know yourselves what you've tested for generators. Yeah. I should be asking you. A lot of my clients are using the Honda 2200. They still have the Honda 2000s. With the easy start for the air conditioning, it's nice that a 2000 watt generator can run the AC. So, really it's preference. There's a lot of great stuff on the market.
Yeah, I would say Honda and Yamaha are still sort of the gold standard in terms of build quality and in terms of noise output. They're the most quiet, but Champion makes some really compelling value for the dollar generators. And they do have some unique offerings, especially that 3400 watt propane and gas dual fuel unit. People love that generator. Yeah. If I had to pick one generator that's the most popular with our community, it would be that dual fuel propane and gasoline generator, because it's nice. You can buy it from the factory turnkey. If you don't even want to carry gasoline, most of us RVers are carrying propane anyway. And so it's not that big a deal to have an extra tank of propane and just get that filled when you're getting your RV propane filled. And you don't have the mess of gasoline, the danger and the mess. A lot of times speaking of equipment sitting up, if a generator sits still for many months with ethanol inside of it, it gets gummed up and you have trouble getting it started again. So that dual fueled unit is pretty attractive.
And the Champion generators are relatively quiet.
Yeah. I mean, they're good value.
They're slightly louder than, our Yamaha was, but it's also half the price almost.
Yeah, so, maybe a third. And where we're using it, if you're using it in a Walmart parking lot or a truck stop or a rest area, those places are already so noisy. Yeah. Nobody's noticing your Champion
But
generator.
Even using it in, a national park setting or whatever during generator hours, it's not something where people are going to hear it. If they're a side or two away, usually they're going to have to be a little closer than that. So you know.
Hey, here's a
It's pretty
question
good.
from David Carley. Now, if you watched our solar install, David actually showed up one day and helped us install the package. And
Yeah.
I know you can answer
He
this
helped pull
question,
all that
Vinny.
wiring.
Well, this is almost sounds like a trivia question, but David has a 2009 30-foot Classic with a slide out. So it's one of the few Airstream models that was made with a slide out. And if I recall correctly, you owned
I did.
that trailer basically, or very similar to that, right?
30-foot. Mm-hmm.
And he says he's seen estimates of over 100 to 300 of those trailers made. Do you have any idea how many were made?
With the slide out?
Well, we had a 2001. They started in 2000, and I can't remember. I think I knew at one time, but stuff is falling out of my head as time goes on.
It's a pretty rare trailer.
I was under the impression that there were, 130 or so made, but I have seen. I think they stopped that in like 2010 or something. When the economy really changed. So I would have to look that up. It's definitely limited production.
Right. All right, we've got another question.
Nothing wrong with the slide out trailer. Nothing to be afraid of.
It was really. Yours is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that slide can be adjusted and no leaks and a fantastic way to travel.
Here's a question. Again, it goes to storage. Keith asks, with the virus and not being able to go camp right now, should he run the air conditioning to keep the moisture out?
In the summer. Because
moisture is the enemy of your interior and it can invite mold and so forth.
Right.
So should he set up some sort of dehumidifier?
Yes. Yeah, that'd be great. If you're going to use your trailer and you're going to bring it home after a winter storage situation, or even a wet winter camping experience that's a weekend long, if you have a home type dehumidifier, one of the stand-up ones with a bucket where it can pull out a gallon of water, you will be shocked how much water actually was introduced into the trailer, right? And not even in your situation where we had those leaks back in 2012, but just coming in with your wet clothes, laying them down, taking showers, boiling water, a wet dog, breathing, all of that stuff. You will pull out 2 gallons of water. And you're like, where did it come from? Yeah. Where did it come from? And it's up in the skins. It's in all, behind the mouse fur. It could be anywhere. And you got to get it dry. So even those little dries the air packs, anything like that would help. But, when that trailer's closed up in the summer, it kind of changes the dew point in the trailer. So all that condensation wants to come up in the trailer. And that's where it's going to rust the rods that hold the windows open, anything that's exposed metal. So get to that trailer now that winter storage is over. You can keep it winterized if you're not going to use it. That's fine. But do a little maintenance on it now, and that'll be great for the longevity of that unit.
Now, Linda was asking if some of this footage was a campground that you have. It's technically not a campground. It's where you have your repair facility, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful landscape that you really developed there. Let's see.
We made it available for clients that are full-timers. It's very disruptive when you live in your trailer, you've got a dog, you work from home in your trailer. So this way they can stay at the property. I bring it in during the day, much like they do at Jackson Center. I put them out at night so they have a place to sleep. They go up, play during the day. If it's a big job, like a solar install, like what Ronnie did on yours, those big jobs is really disruptive, as you saw yourself. Yeah. It's best to power down the trailer. You can't really have the fridge active. Oh, there's ways I do that, but it's best to go someplace else. But if it's just general repairs, things where I can keep it powered up, I'll put them back out that night, and they can stay the night. So yeah, we're pretty happy here.
I'm gonna give a shout out to Missy Ferguson. Right, Missy is an old friend of mine.
Hey,
we
Missy.
Went to high school together. It's always good to see you, Missy. Thank you for tuning in. Dennis asked, "What's your experience with the Zip-D Relax awning?" I'm not really familiar with the Relax awning. Is that the same one that we have? We do have a Zip-D awning.
Yes. So, what's the next question?
Uh-oh.
I'm
So
kidding.
somebody
I'm
question-
kidding. There are lots of Zip D Relax awnings out there. Tons of them. It's a factory fit now. It's a really neat awning, and I think a lot of the bugs have been worked out as different generations of awning arms have been. Well, I could show you. I have several of them here, but a lot of changes have been made to that system to get to where we are today. And there are folks out there in YouTube land listening to this, thinking, "Well, not mine." So. Yeah, we've had some troublesome
Power awning,
runs.
that's the new power awning that has had a few hiccups.
Few hiccups. I recently had one where I think inside the wall we had a problem with the harness, and the customer was so frustrated. It would work every time it left, but once it bounced down the road a while and was opened and closed, it would fail. So they'd have to manually roll it up. So we converted it back out to a manual awning. So that's a little bit expensive, but you can use that same awning tube and spring. It's a fun time to change out the fabric colors. We've done that quite a bit here, and put it back to a manual awning. So if you're at wit's end and you hate your Airstream because it's equipped with this awning, an early one, you can't fix it. It is an option. But I would say now this has been worked out, and we don't see the problems that we saw before with that awning.
Speaking of awnings, Ken in Boise says, how do I properly clean my awnings, and do I need to lubricate the power awning?
He has a 30-foot
Yeah.
Serenity.
Yeah, you do. I'm going to take you for a little walk over here.
A field trip.
Yeah, a little field trip, and these are some of the struts. Can you see these struts?
Yep.
Mhm.
So this is the strut. This surface here tends to want to get corroded. It actually looks like a filiform corrosion. So I like to clean this with a Scotch-Brite and lube this with a silicone spray is fine. So this is a maintenance item. When the trailer comes in for service, I'm actually going to clean this. Also, these arms here where they come out, that's another area that can get corrosion, and different things are going to slow it down. There's also a lubrication point on those on the threaded rod that allows this to go up and down. So yes, there is maintenance on that awning, and the fabric. Zip D at their website has instruction how to clean the fabric. Different fabrics, and for example, Sunbrella and all that. So go right to their website, and there's a lot of FAQ right there.
All right. Give them some shout outs. Hey to Herbie. Hey to Jeremy. Here's a question that goes to the towing of an Airstream. Phil asks, how long of an Airstream could a 2012 Jeep pull? I mean, Jeep's a pretty short wheelbase vehicle.
Yeah, it is. So that would be your
1955 bubble. Airstream bubble, right?
Well, you're going to look at what the manufacturer says it can tow, and then you want to be within those limitations, and then you want to think about how is the maintenance on that vehicle? Has it been modified to where it's got big tires on it, and that you lose torque there? So anytime you modify it from what the manufacturer did, that's going to affect the way it tows, right?
Right.
So you want to have the right hitch, you want to have it set up correctly and be within specifications, and I think it would be a great tow vehicle. I know the new Jeep Gladiator tows, like a beast for a small light duty vehicle like that. I think it's on a Dodge frame, but it only has a 6-cylinder engine. So yeah, people are doing it.
I'm going to say hi to Crystal, hi to Keith in Georgia, and Betty in Illinois. And we did have a question. Let's see. Here, this goes to sort of the modern Airstreams. Any concerns about adding an additional air conditioning unit in a 30 amp system? We'll be adding it to the bedroom or in a Class C motorhome. So I see that these days, a lot of RVs have more than one air conditioner.
Right, right. So you can certainly add an AC unit. It's a 14 by 14 opening, just like the fantastic vent that's in there now. So that's what the AC would use, but you'd have to check and make sure that area of the roof is designed for the additional weight bouncing down the road. So that would be one thing I would look at to make sure it's framed. I know where currently your air conditioning is, it's beefed up for that weight. And then you're going to run into issues. How do you run electrical to it? It needs both 12 volt and ground, and it needs AC power up to it as well. And then it needs to communicate, if you're going to use one thermostat, it needs to be able to communicate to the front unit and then down to an upgraded thermostat. Or if it's going to work independently, you can have controls right on that AC unit and work it independently. So yeah, it can be done. There's some logistics you have to figure out, how to hide the wiring, how to make it look nice. Where's the condensation going to drain? Is it going to drain down the roof? There's probably no tube that's already in the ceiling for it. So there's a lot. You can't just quote a price. You have to kind of see what it is you're trying to do.
And you could do that on a 30 amp system, like have 2 ACs on a 30 amp?
No, that requires a 50 amp system to run both of those.
Okay.
So,
but
there are
they do have a 30 amp. They're wanting to add an extra. So
maybe you do an easy start on that second unit, which can now run on a 20 amp circuit. You do an independent circuit onto the side of the trailer, and then you've got your main 30 amp that plugs into the pole, and you use one of the other sockets. There may be campground hosts listening right now frowning on that, but you could certainly ask them, because you'd be using that pole, both the 20 amp circuit and the 30 amp, but they're independent of each other. But that's one way to work around it.
I'm going to give a shout out to Janice, who's joining us from Indiana, and this is their first live stream.
Oh, wow.
Doing more of the live streams lately because of the unique situation in which we all find ourselves. It's a good time to experiment with some new technology, and it's a lot of fun. Michelle,
we aren't exploring too many new and exciting destinations.
No, we
these
hope
days.
to be soon. But Michelle says they just bought a travel trailer. It's 3 years old, and the outside has been really neglected. They're waxing it tomorrow. Will the shine ever come back? Are there any suggestions? And I know I've seen you buff our Airstream clear coat before. They really help the shine come back.
It does. Now, I guess, is this an Airstream that she has, or just a
travel trailer? So it might be fiberglass.
So you might contact, is it fiberglass? Is it a gel coat? They tend to fade. So I would reach out to the manufacturer of that trailer and ask them, because there are new products out there that can adhere to that material and put a shine back into it. But and the decals are starting to fade and peel. So I would ask the manufacturer what they use to kind of refresh it.
We'll say hi to Josh, Barbara, Phil, Stetson, and Landy.
Stetson, that's a cool name.
That is a cool name. And somebody asked if gel batteries are that much better than lead acid. I think the best batteries are the Battleborn lithium, but
that's a pretty cool battery.
Cheap. Yeah, they're really an exciting technology.
Yeah, they are, and they're lightweight. I mean, 31 pounds versus 74 pounds for a 6-volt. I have AGMs in my trailer, and for the amount of camping that I do, and this year has been canceled, so it's a less expensive battery. I don't have to put water in it. It's a sealed battery. I'm expecting to, I disconnect them so there's no draw on them, and they get charged in by a 3-stage charger, so I'm not abusing them. And then it has solar, so that's kind to them as well. So you can get 5-6 years out of a good gel battery, AGM battery. I'm not a big fan of wet cell batteries, golf cart batteries, and you can keep up on them if you're a mechanical guy, that tinkerer, and you like to tend to your batteries and you bring them in and you trickle charge them, but it's tough. RVs are tough on batteries. They wear them down and they run them dead, and it goes on for months, and they're like, oh, let's just charge it up. But it leaves a mark for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had that problem. Even last season when we went out camping, we had to replace our lead acid batteries. Like, we'd get up in the morning, and especially after running the propane furnace, those fans would just knock those batteries down to nothing. And we wake up in the morning and nothing would work. You know, like lights would be flickering, the toilet would struggle flushing, you know, like you don't really think about how much you're using electricity, like even to use the water pump. You know, like our batteries were too weak. So we're really excited about those Battle-Born lithium batteries. That's probably
you're gonna love those. I mean, you're gonna get, I know you guys are late nighters anyway, but you're gonna get bored and just go to bed before they're dead. He did. You've got quite a few of them. So yeah. Now I have a customer that also we installed 4 on, and he's got a standalone fridge, and he likes to have all the lights on and all that stuff all night long. And you know, he's gotten them down, 4 of them to 40%, and so he's not trying to conserve. But you know, the next day that solar will bring him right back up, and yeah, you guys are gonna love it. I mean, you've got 13.2 volts all the way down to the last 5%. How cool is that? Whereas with your lead acid battery, your gel battery, when the battery gets down to say 12.1, which is about half the battery charge, now the furnace is running slow, the water pump's running slow. You know, bad things are going to happen to the fridge soon, and so this is a game changer. Yeah,
I look forward to being able to not have to worry about it in that cold weather camping situation, because that's where we were really feeling the crunch last year, was when it was so cold and we were just having to run the furnace.
Right.
Not even to make it hot, just to make it bearable.
Yeah.
Right. And they like to be comfortable just like you do. So having them inside, they'll work through their full cycle, be able to recharge, and yeah, for your cold weather camping, it's going to be great.
Awesome.
I want to say hey to Diane, and also hey to Vinicius in
Brazil. Wow.
It's really amazing. We do these live streams. We have people tune in from all around the world. I mean, we've had Manila, Philippines, we've had Thailand, and now Brazil. Andrew in Baltimore. And here's a question from John. For anyone looking to buy a used Airstream, what should they look for right off the bat? And I will take this moment to plug my book. I have a book called How to Buy an Airstream, which sort of lays out the basics for anybody who's new to Airstream ownership, kind of like some of the basic things to look for. But I interviewed Vinnie for that book. So like if somebody can't, first of all, I would advise you look and see if Vinnie has any for sale, because you do occasionally sell them, right?
I sell my customers only. Yeah. That way I can be sure what the history is. Yeah.
Yeah. Because then, you know, Vinnie has actually gone over it with a fine tooth comb. But what should people look for if they're going out and looking for an Airstream?
Well, I guess I would ask it, are they already familiar with Airstreams? If you're already familiar, then you kind of know some of the ins and outs. But, you know, I mean, I'd poke around and make sure there's no floor rot. It can be expensive. It's not a deal breaker by any means. It can be fixed. So general condition of the skin, you know, one of those corner panels is about $3,000. So if you want a pristine one, you kind of have to find a pristine one. You know, basic repairs. Has it had panels? How's the roof look? How are those tires? Has it had bearing repacks? The new ones have seal bearings. You know, just generally, how was it used? Is this one that the family used it and put 100,000 miles on it and went back and forth across the United States? Hopefully you can get a pretty good deal on it at that point. But might be a great trailer too, because they've worked out all the bugs. So yeah, it's if you had somebody that could go out and do an inspection with you, or say get on air forums and ask if there's somebody that would do an inspection for you that's familiar with it, it might save you from making a big mistake.
Yeah, pre-purchase inspection is a good idea, especially if you're new to Airstream ownership. That what you said about floor rot, it seems like that's the really big issue. Like you would hate for someone to purchase used Airstream. Like we bought a used Airstream. I mean, you don't have to buy new, but you do have to check the floor or look for signs of water intrusion, because that could be such an expensive repair, right?
And in your trailer, I think we saw ducks floating by, and you know, it was
Alaska,
so wet. Yeah, right. And we were able to dehumidify it and drain all that water. And your floor is solid. I did a floor on it, and it was great. So it doesn't mean if the floor got wet, you had an event, something happened. It doesn't mean in any way that the floor is rotten. It's it's continuous. It's over time, and not maybe it's in an area underneath the bed where you don't go to. Maybe it's underneath the table towards the back wall, and you never put your foot there, and the floor might be a little soft. So it gives you some warning signs before it fails. But you can get that linoleum up, and you can get it, maybe poke through it and get the water from standing in that it's kind of like a foil material underneath the wood, and get it to drain away and get some dehumidifying going on, some fans. You can save it.
I was going to ask you, if somebody's looking at an Airstream and they're trying to check for floor rot, what do they do? I mean, what can they do to check for floor rot?
Yeah, it's tough, especially if the seller's, right there. When I bring it in, I'll use a little.
All, right?
Yeah, I'll use a little ice pick around
the floor. They frown on that.
I'll use a little ice pick around the edges where maybe you can see the linoleum is pulling away a little bit in the back, especially 2005, 6, and 7 Safari, that model. Just poke around a little bit, and you can tell if it's going to come in from that rear rail. It's the wood's probably going to be a little soft. So it's again, to me, it's not a deal breaker, but it does need to be addressed in the transaction for sure.
I want to give a thank you to Kim H.
Yeah, thanks for the tip.
Super sticker. And Brian asked, do you think truck washes are a good choice for cleaning an RV? Because we see those
like a drive-through, like 18-wheeler truck wash.
Yeah.
So I would be careful of too much high pressure washer, in that you're going into all the seams. If you don't have a leak and you're trying to really clean around the window, you could maybe pop. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. So you want to be careful. When we were talking about the ceramic, you could use a high pressure wrench at a car wash would be fine. But if you stand back a little bit, you just want to get it to where you're getting the debris off the front of the trailer, but not trying to jam it into the seams and around plastic vents and that kind of thing, because then you might be inducing a problem.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to acknowledge some people here. Thank you, Denise, for the super sticker.
Oh, thanks, Denise.
Thank you, Mach5, says, can't get enough of this channel. Always entertaining, informative.
Oh, thank you.
Mach5, thanks also for being a member. We're going to try to do a private meet and greet with our YouTube members in the very near future. Let's see. Here's a question from David. What would you recommend for an onboard surge protector? Have you installed a lot of those surge protectors?
I have, yeah. So I guess I guess my question would be, what coach do you have, and do you really feel a need for one? They make inexpensive ones that you can hang on the pole outside. But is it because you have a lot of electronics in the trailer, or is it a newer equipment? Motorhomes, a lot of the big buses are coming with them built in, just because there's so much sensitive electronics. But if you get a surge or whatever, you're not necessarily going to do a lot of damage to an older travel trailer. But the Parallax makes one that's a hardwire unit that I've installed many times, and it's kind of hidden away, and it works its magic behind the scenes, and there's a little delay in before it will allow the voltage to come into the trailer, and it tests it. Maybe if there's a brownout, too many people in the campground using ACs on a hot day, it would shut down if it's going to possibly do damage to your AC unit. So I'm not saying it's not a good thing. It is a good thing, but it's a little bit expensive to install, and maybe you could mount a small one just on the pole outside if you felt you needed it.
Right. I want to give a shout out to Luther, and thank you for the super sticker.
Yeah, thanks, Luther.
Very kind of you. Deb asked, where's baby girl, the Chihuahua? She is sleeping right now.
She's sleeping in her bed. She wasn't up for a party tonight. Sorry.
Denise says, Vinny, your help on door shutting issues was spot on.
She's saying thanks.
And Randall, let's say Randall said, hey, from the Phoenix area, Vinny helped me over the phone a couple of years ago with my door lock.
So he said, thanks again.
That's really, Vinny's helped so many people over the years. And I guess sometimes people shoot you messages and call you. I know you've got so many clients now that you're booked out sort of months in advance, right?
I am. I'm a small shop, so folks are, even during these times now with this pandemic, they've had their appointment for 2 months. So they're bringing the trailer in, wearing gloves and masks, and
Yeah.
that works out just fine. So we've been pretty blessed and haven't really been affected by this. But yeah,
Then
I'm
maybe
usually booked
men
for a
showed
couple
up and took the trailer away, and I don't know.
months.
Let's hope that's not
You know,
happening.
when everybody's wearing a
Yeah.
black mask, I mean, how do you tell the good
Right.
guys from the bad guys?
Can you remind people real quick, Vinnie, where you're located, and if they wanted to contact you, how the best way to do that is?
So you can find me at vinniesairstream.com. I have a website. I also have a Facebook page. On there, you'll find all kinds of ways to get hold of me with Messenger, whatever. Texting is great. Oftentimes, if you had a multimeter and a flashlight, we can figure something out to save your trip. So I like helping people. I think the Airstream community is amazing. If you are an Airstream owner and you run into trouble, go knock on the door of another Airstreamer, and it's just like that guy's got a full toolbox and all kinds of tricks. So I'm happy to help, and it's not just about the business. This was kind of my retirement gig, and I never thought I would be so busy. I thought, well, okay, but then of course I met you guys, and you changed all that. But no, it's been a lot of fun, and certainly here to do what I can.
Buana Buana says, Sean, where's your hat? Here's my hat, Buana Buana. Remember this?
Nice.
And I used to wear the pith helmet when going out Airstreaming.
That is some old school hat wearing right there.
The pith
That is a
helmet
look.
lives.
It's a look, that's for sure.
It is a look, isn't it?
I'm not going to say what kind of look, but it's a look.
It turns head. Don says he spends about 4 months a year, about 8,500 feet of altitude. Lightning is a serious issue. All right. Anything else you should do other than a surge protector?
Okay, so lightning. Oh, that's an interesting one. Yeah, again, surge protector is measuring current coming in through the pole. But if lightning is to strike the trailer, I think all bets are off. I'm not sure
Yeah.
the surge protector would help you. With that altitude, I'd be thinking about adjusting your water heater so that it doesn't run so rich. And then he knows all the other issues of being in a high altitude. I'm sure it comes with challenges, but yeah, I mean, lightning, that's a tough one,
Have to
right?
make a cake at 8,500 feet of
Right, it
altitude.
is.
Paul asked a question about the brakes. How do you know if you need to replace your brakes, and how hard are they to replace? And it's an interesting question because we haven't replaced our brakes in probably 10 years. Liv's
Yeah,
brakes,
yours may be due. So there's things to look for. I mean, if you, what I like to do is tell folks that when you're pulling the trailer into the campground and when your spotters, they're kind of figuring out where you need to be, also be listening to those wheels, because if you have a broken spring or something, it's going to be a little telltale sign. You're going to hear something rolling around in the drum. There's a little noise anyway, just because the magnet rubs against the surface of the drum, but you'll know if a spring is in there, or maybe that tire locks up a little bit, because what can happen is on these newer style brake assemblies, they're self-adjusting. So they always want to go to the next click, and the next click is going to build a little more heat and a little more wear on the shoe. They can build too much heat, and the shoe can actually separate from the brake itself. So an inspection is the best way to go. I mean, just because, let's say it's a newer trailer, just because you have those sealed bearings, which tend to go, 50 to 100,000 miles, doesn't mean you shouldn't check that wheel for end play to make sure that bearing's in good shape. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't pull that wheel off, pull that cap, pull the nut off, pull that drum off, and just check those brakes, because you could have something going on to where one has been dragging a long time. It's about to go metal to metal. So maintenance of, precedes a breakdown, and that's, breakdowns are no fun when you're camping. And it's always the last day when you're trying to come home,
Right.
Very true.
We may be talking to you about that soon. I want to give a shout out to Tracy. Mary Kay is my thing in Illinois. Thank you for tuning in, Tracy. And also Cheshta in Hawaii says, Cheshta appreciates all different videos we've made featuring Vinny, a wealth of good information there. Vinny
is a good wealth of information.
And he's very generous with sharing his knowledge with everybody.
I'm learning every
day. Dave asks, what are your thoughts on the Everchill 12-volt refrigerators? I'm not familiar with these refrigerators. Are you?
I think this trailer here has a version of that. I know they've been used in the marine applications. It's pretty spectacular that a fridge can cool like that with such a low voltage and wattage draw. So yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with them, but I think it's going to become a thing as time goes on.
Sounds nice. I want to give a shout out to Herbie Ford. Thank you for the tip, Herbie.
We appreciate that.
Greatly appreciated. Hey, David and Sandy. There's a fellow Californian, Armando in Southern California. So, all right. Now, Bruce asked about where is Vinny's door shutting advice located. Now, we've done some previous videos with Vinny where he's talked about shutting doors. In fact, if you dig into our archives on our channel, we've done several live chats with Vinny.
I think the last one we did with you when we were actually there at your shop, was that 2018?
Let's just do it again, shall we? It'll take a minute.
You sort of did a little demonstration for us in that video. Yeah.
I have no idea how this trailer door shuts, so let's just see.
It's a gamble.
Yeah, it's kind of not bad. It's not bad. Okay, so some things to look at on your trailer, and I'll try to get a close-up of this. So what we call the door catch or the lobster claws here, that's a good place to start. Let's get some lubrication on that latch. Okay. That in itself makes a huge difference. So the first thing you want to do is you want to put the stabilizers up, because this trailer is much like an airplane, like a 747 on takeoff. If you're sitting in the back and you look up at first class, you can see that the plane's kind of twisting. Well, this construction does the same thing. So if I was to put the right front stabilizer down and just put like 3 cranks on it, you know, like what might happen with your electric drill that you see the guys cranking it up and like, well, let's put this one a little more. Hey, it's not quite level. Let's do this one over here. Now the thing's all twisted and contorted. The door doesn't have a chance. Right? You're going to have to slam it and say, wow, it worked fine at home or at the rest stop, and now the door's messed up. And it's because of what's been done to the coach. So put the stabilizers back up, start over. How does the door close? It's sitting on all 4 tires. It's sitting on the tongue. How does the door close? If the door is fine, then you know you got to bring the stabilizers down, let them touch, and maybe a crank or a crank and a half more, and that's it. Leave it. And if you're staying for a long time, you might have to readjust it. Maybe it's at the campground, it's settling. Maybe you're in the dirt or something like that. So bring them up and just set them back down again. And that'll stabilize the trailer evenly, because that's the key. Worst case scenario, you might need the door adjusted. And that's a simple thing to do. Sometimes the door doesn't have the right fit, but if it's right, and I'm sorry to say this one is not exactly right because something's wrong with the handle, but it should be 2 clicks. 2 clicks like that with my hand, and I can grab it with my pinky and I can open it. So what that does is it allows you, when you're inside at night, you're not that person that has to slam the door because you can't get it to close from the inside, and it just doesn't feel like it's closed. So they slam it 3 times at 10 o'clock. So get your door adjusted so it does that, and you should have great results.
Yeah, you should be able to just gently, like you said, touch the door with your pinky almost. I mean, if you've got it
wants to close nicely. Yeah, and a new trailer might need more time to break in because the seals are a little tighter, and you know, maybe it requires an adjustment. But just put some good lubricant. I like what do I like? There's hang on.
Yeah, somebody asked what your favorite dry lubricant was.
I know
but-
somebody's going to ask. So I'm back. So Triflow makes a really good lubricant for door latches and the keys. So if you're gonna use this on the lobster claws, use it on the key too, and put it in there a few times on all your latches. That's a great thing to do after winterizing as well. So this will keep corrosion and all that from forming inside the door latch.
All right, I want to give a shout out to Sharon Rose, who just became
thanks.
a YouTube member. Thank you, Sharon. We're going to be doing some special meet and greets with our YouTube members in the very near future, so stay tuned for that. And Mach 5, I thought that was nice. Gave Sharon a warm welcome. Out of Office Adventures, thank you for the super sticker.
Thank you very much.
Much appreciated. Somebody asked earlier if they heard us correctly, if we think camping has been canceled for this year. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say no. I don't believe.
No.
I don't think it's been canceled. First of all, as we discussed, I think it's a good idea for you to use your RV, even if it means doing some driveway camping. And we've done a lot of driveway camping over the years. Maybe even driveway camping with friends.
We've done some driveway camping with Vinny for a while before.
Yeah. You've done shop camping.
Yeah, we have.
Done shop camping.
And honestly, those sometimes can be some of the most fun experiences you will have with an RV, because you will spend time with friends and family in a unique setting, a unique environment. And we have, really great memories and bonds with friends and family all around the country that we would not have had if we hadn't gotten our RV out to do that. Now, with that said, our understanding is that the national parks are going to reopen in June.
So I saw
That's the latest.
A notification on the Yellowstone National Park Facebook page. I believe it was the day before yesterday. And they were talking about what's going to be open this summer. From that specific announcement that they made a couple of days ago, they were saying that they were going to plan on opening all the campgrounds, I believe June 15th, with the exception of Fishing Bridge. For some reason, they are not opening Fishing Bridge at all this year. So if you're somebody that needs full hookups within Yellowstone, you're going to be out of luck this year. But the other campgrounds are opening June 15th. They're going to stay open through, I believe it was September 13th or somewhere right around in there. The big announcement was that none of the sit-down restaurants were going to be open. So only takeaway service for food. And then, of course, I guess just the stores where they sell, bread and milk and that kind of stuff will be open. So you're really going to be on your own for food within Yellowstone. And then the other big announcement was that Old Faithful Inn is going to be closed all summer as well. So that's a bummer. And I think that probably goes back to the fact that they do have some shared bathrooms within that hotel. So that would be my guess as to why it's going to be closed. And that may be why Fishing Bridge is going to be closed, because those sites are so close together. Because if you've ever been to the Fishing Bridge campground at Yellowstone, it's basically just a parking lot, because it is the full hookup campground. And you really are in there kind of right on top of each other. So that would be my only guess as to why it's going to be closed. Like I said, I'm totally guessing. I don't know if that's the reason why. But that was the announcement that was made on the Yellowstone Facebook page, I believe 2 days ago. So that information can change, I'm sure, and probably will.
So things are opening up, but they'll be partially open. Speaking as someone who worked in one of those restaurants out in Yellowstone, you're not missing a lot. If those restaurants, aren't the greatest. So I think
it's really just for convenience.
Making your own meals at your campsite is the way to go anyway. But it sounds like they're going to be just partially open parks. But if you're willing to deal with that, then I think the crowds are going to be much, much lower. And this actually may be a very good time to get out and go to some of these places, because they're not going to be so crowded, and you're not going to have probably a lot of international tourists there just due to the circumstances, because the whole world is in kind of a lockdown mode right now.
Yeah, because international tourists really do have a big impact on Yellowstone, Grand Teton, Grand Canyon. Those are 3 parks that are really heavily trafficked by international visitors. So if those people aren't allowed in, that's going to ratchet down the numbers this year. So it might be a good time to make a run for it. I don't know.
Let's see. We got a comment that says, open them all up as soon as possible. I hope that they will.
Somebody was asking, wasn't Fishing Bridge being redone? And actually they redid it last year. It was closed all last year to be completely refurbished. So you know, maybe they'll make it extra good this year since it's going to be closed for another year.
Let's see, Kevin asked the tire issue. We're running Michelin LT tires on our Airstream right now, Kevin.
Somebody was asking about nitrogen in your tires.
Yeah, that's
like
right.
If they have nitrogen in their tires, there we go. Paul was asking this question. He says it's hard to find, and he said, can they start filling it with air, or do they have to keep nitrogen?
No, you can start to fill it with air.
Nitrogen is better, but it's just kind of a hassle finding it sometimes, right?
Yeah, it just, if you have a slow leak, nitrogen it'll be harder for it to leak with nitrogen. I mean, with the LT tires that you have now on your trailer and new wheels, I bet the tire pressure is still 65, and it is year after year. I mean, they're amazing. I mean, things you want to check is the valve stem. Is the valve stem the old rubber type, or is it the steel stem? A steel stem's going to actually live the life cycle of that tire. A rubber one, and then maybe if you put tire pressure monitors on the rubber one, it's wiggling all over the place, and that can cause leaks right there over time, or age, or sun. If you can cover any tire, I mean, the LT tire was designed to be used, so it's just sitting with the sun baking on it. It'd be nice to put some tire covers on it. Let that be the sacrificial wear item versus the sidewall of the tire, right? So that'll help.
Absolutely.
I want to thank Bruce Stevenson for the super sticker.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce.
And also Nancy Lawn.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Much appreciated. John asks if Eastern Canada is still on our radar. It still is, but I really was talking to someone recently, and they said they're not even sure about border crossings right now between Canada and the United States.
I don't know if we could even get there.
There's really just a lot of uncertainty now, unfortunately, about that kind of travel. And I'm afraid we might get to the border and just get turned away.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't know if I want to go to the Northeast right now. I mean, it's such a congested area anyway. But having to worry about social distancing and all that sort of thing with just heavier populations there, we'll probably head for some good BLM land somewhere and sort of be out, using our new solar setup.
Exactly. Krista asked if you could advise on a 14-inch tire. And you mentioned those Goodyear endurance tires seem to be working out pretty well for people. And I assume they come in 14-inch.
They do. So it's a good option. I don't want to exclude all the people with the Goodyear endurance. It's a well-made tire that has better standards in the build quality. So it's been great. So it's an option. Yep.
Now we have a question from one Nartaka, who asks if an RV cover is worth buying. I mean, for those folks who cannot park their RV indoors, is a cover a good investment or is it a bad investment? Because I know that with an Airstream, a cover could actually do some damage to the clear coat, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Dust will get underneath the cover. The wind hits the cover, and it just wears it like sandpaper.
It's abrasive.
So, right. And I'm not going to say in all conditions. If you had a lightweight, silky cover in an area that's protected from the wind, maybe somebody has an experience where it works perfect for them and doesn't damage their Airstream. It's just what gets all the tree sap on it and all that instead of the trailer. So maybe for them it works, but as a general response to that, the answer is no. Now, on a box trailer with a rubber roof, something like that, yeah, it'd be great if you can put a cover on it. Just, it's hard work. I don't know, climbing up the ladder with that big cover and throwing it over, and then somebody has a great idea, let's go camping next week, I'm out. It's just like, Jack, it took me an hour to put that on.
Yeah, I once had a car that kept under a cover, and I noticed that over time the cover kind of wore through the clear coat. It was the same issue with a car.
Yeah.
Because it's like you said, it's just like a sandpaper abrasion that's rubbing on it every day, every time the wind blows, and it will wear through that clear coat and damage the paint if you're not careful. Todd says, come out to BLM land in Utah. I agree wholeheartedly. That's some of the most beautiful camping anywhere. Utah, if you guys have not been to Utah, Utah is just a fantastic state for camping and outdoor life. A lot of great, not only national parks, but state parks. 5 national parks. There are all sorts of state parks that are equally beautiful.
Dead
if not
Horse
more
Point
so.
is an incredible state park that's there.
We may do a meetup in Salt Lake City later this summer. We've been talking about maybe doing that because I
Yeah.
think we have a lot of Loho citizens, Loho Nation citizens in Utah. Let's see. Jim asked, what are the best ideas for chemicals in the gray and black tanks? And I think this also goes to the question for people that have their RVs in storage. Should they have chemicals in those tanks, or should they have just antifreeze, or what?
So I like to keep the tanks empty. There's different trains of thought on that. Some want the chemicals in there so that the seal stays lubricated and has some, moisture behind it, but there are chemicals that will attack that seal too, and make it all kind of wavy. And then when you go to use it, it kind of leaks. So there's people in both camps on that. I make sure the tanks are drained, fresh water, gray water, black water, and I just leave the valves closed, and I'm not going to try to open that valve if the freezing temperatures. That would of course potentially damage the seal. I'm just going to wait till everything thaws out. Yeah, it's a little bit of a job to change those blade valves on some of the classics and Flying Clouds where it's buried up in their tank. But if you're getting 10 years out of those blade valves anyway, that's probably getting close to where you want to throw a sensor in it so you can actually see what the volume is in the tank, and probably a couple valves. It's not that expensive, and it really changes your experience. When you're that guy and you open up the lid and half of the content falls out before you kind of get the hose next to it, yeah, you want to make sure.
We don't know what you're talking about.
Right, I know nobody does. Yeah, I know.
All right, we're getting ready to wrap up because we've been going on a marathon session.
Yeah, almost
here.
An hour and a half.
Yeah,
wow.
Vinny's been a trooper, powering through. We did get a question about Maxim Skylights, and I know that is an upgrade that you make sometimes to Airstreams. And yeah. Richard asked, what shading do you recommend if somebody was going to upgrade their Skylights to the Maxim Skylights?
He said he wants to reduce heat, but he likes the ambient light.
Okay, so it's going to reduce heat anyway because of its construction. So it has 3 layers, the outer shell and inner, and then another one. So you're going to get UV protection. You're going to get insulating properties to keep the heat out or keep the heat in the wintertime. I like light gray, but there are an awful lot of options. So if you want to be able to see out of it, a light gray is going to allow you to do that. If you just want to see, you can go clear if you want, and just close your little skylight shade if you're just trying to keep UV out. But it really is preference. If you go to their site, they've got some different color shades, but I order many of them all the same size, so it fits all of them, because that's a little tricky to special order exactly for that trailer. There's a little lead time issue. So I will order them all in light gray, clear. So the top is light gray and then clear, and I'll do a white powder coat frame so it matches the white roof.
Oh, nice.
All right. I want to give a shout out to Julie. Thank you for the super sticker.
Yeah, thanks, Julie.
Very kind of you. And we're going to wrap up pretty soon here because, like I said, Vinny's been a real trooper. We've been fielding questions for about 90 minutes. We thank everyone for tuning in and for commenting and sending in questions. And we're going to keep combing through these questions in the future.
Yeah, we might answer some in a future video.
Yeah, a lot of times we find our campfire questions from our audience members, really, or when you guys ask questions, if we weren't able to address them in this video, it's just because we've gotten so many, but we appreciate them all so much. Salvatore asks, is it okay to stand on your RV roof?
Oh, well, it's dangerous for one. If it's an Airstream, I don't recommend standing because you've got 2 very specific pressure points that could do some damage. I like to distribute my weight, so both knees and both palms, and only on the ribs. So follow where those rivets are and distribute your weight around. You can also make some plankings up there to distribute out your weight if otherwise it's too difficult. But if you can just stand on a ladder and work the brush to clean it. Of course, if you have to do a Maxim Skylight or something, you're going to have to get up there, but be careful. It's a long ways down.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
Makes me nervous.
Daniel says, Sean, thanks for turning me on to Vinnie about 3 years ago. And thank you, Vinnie, for helping me with all my problems, from heater problems to blowing up battery to sealer. Thanks for everything.
That was Daniel Borgman.
I think that's sort of a good closing comment, because we want to thank Vinnie for everything he's done for all of us over the years.
Yes, absolutely.
He's a true gem, a true treasure for the Airstream community and for the RV community.
Airstream Whisperer.
Yep, he's the Airstream Whisperer, and he's just been a great friend to us for many, many years.
Yes,
and we look forward to many more years of hanging out together and occasionally making videos together. We want to get our Airstream back on the road and get it out to Wilton so we can camp in Vinnie's backyard once again, because he's done a lot of cool stuff.
You are very welcome, and it's a pleasure with both of you, and I appreciate this time we had and all the great questions. I'll go in and review some of the questions if I can bounce in and answer some of the ones that didn't come up. I'll certainly do so.
That would be that's a fantastic idea. We would all appreciate that so much, Vinnie, because when we do these live chats, we want to acknowledge everyone and everyone's questions, but it's very difficult to do in this format, you know, but we do the best we can. Vinnie will be in those comments later, I think, and maybe answering some questions. He's so generous with his knowledge. You know, Vinnie will be working all night long to answer those questions.
Poor Vinnie.
Well, maybe not all night long.
If you get tired, you can just go in the brooder and sleep.
Right.
Take a little nap.
Yeah. That's pretty fun. So anyway, thank you guys. It was
all right. Yep. Thank you guys. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
So much. We appreciate it.
Has been an episode of Long Long Honeymoon. We are Sean and Kristy. That was Vinnie Lamica of Vinnie's North Bay Airstream Repair in Wilton, California. Thanks again, guys. We'll be in there answering some of your questions in the comments later, and we'll be back next week with probably a more traditional video. But we've had a lot of fun with this live streaming stuff, and we're going to try to keep doing this moving forward, because it's just a lot of fun to talk to you guys this way.
It's fun to interact with you guys, you know, immediately and answer questions and get shout outs and hear where everybody's tuning in from. So,
and by the way, Reagan, thank you for supporting us on Patreon. I'll be answering your question in the very near future, I promise, in a more personal, direct way. All right, later, guys. What do we say on Long Long Honeymoon? We say,
Lo-lo-ho.
Lo-lo-ho. Appreciate it.